Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. In Jujutsu Kaisen, we've had a couple of moments where we would witness a character get pushed to their utmost limits in battle and due to this, transcend them, reaching or obtaining a power beyond their normal capacity. These moments would seem to be portrayed as them awakening, transcending, evolving, something like that for the respective character they tend to center upon. And in this video, that's exactly what we're going to be covering. From Gojo to Yuji and potentially Sukuna, I'll be performing a bit of analysis on these awakenings and the implications behind them as well. And with that said, let's get into the video. So we'll begin with the first awakening witnessed in the series, Satoru Gojo's access to the reverse curse technique. Ironically, in terms of trigger, it seems to be the outlier, as the next two we have witnessed seem to have been triggered by the Black Flash, rather than comprehension of the reverse curse technique. Upon being brought to near death by Toji Zenin in their first battle, Gojo focuses all of his bodily functions on grasping the reverse curse technique, giving him the ability to heal himself, but not only this, access to the rest of the techniques of the Limitless. Gojo then takes what he's learned and engages in a rematch against Toji. After his first activation of Red against him, he speaks of how in the moment he cannot mourn Rico, or really care for anything around him currently. Then he goes on to say his trademark throughout the heavens and the earth, I alone am the honored one. This whole segment symbolizing the Buddhist idea of the middle way by Gojo, choosing to recognize that nothing lasts forever, and due to this, he enters a sense of non-attachment. At this very moment, he was free of everything, being able to take in the world around him and be of it. As a result, he's allowed to completely erase any obstacles in his path, which is how I interpret his purple one-shot on Toji, and it may be why Gege decided to give purple to Gojo at this very moment. Gojo after this awakening became the strongest sorcerer of today, gaining so much strength that he essentially isolated himself from the rest of humanity. Strangely enough, every other sorcerer who reached the level of strength or competence that Gojo has seems to be human, but not really. Depending on how you look at Gojo, he could fit into this category as well, but we'll get into this later. Like Satoru Gojo, why not give your device an awakening with Surfshark VPN, the sponsor of this video. Surfshark will give your device the ability to access region block content so you can have access to more shows or videos on whatever streaming platform you choose. Surfshark does not only keep your IP address safe and allow you to access region block content, but it also has the reverse curse technique of encrypting your online activity. This keeps all of your data private, and this is important when using public Wi-Fi, as there are people out there who will take advantage of your data when sharing a public Wi-Fi connection with you. And the best part of Surfshark is the fact that you can use all of the features on an unlimited amount of devices, generating an unlimited amount of value. Awaken your device's curse technique by giving Surfshark a try using my code on the screen to get 3 months free, and they do offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so feel free to give it a try using the link in the description down below, as there's really nothing to lose by doing so. Moving on from the strongest sorcerer of today, we move on to the Satoru Gojo of curses, the representation of human death and malice, Mahito. Mahito is a curse made of humanity's malice that was pushed to an awakening in his final battle against Yuji Tadori. As we know, Mahito is a curse who sees a soul in every organism, not just humans, and by proxy, believes that human life has no special weight or value. There's nothing that really makes a human soul different from the soul of plants, curses, and animals, so why are they so special? Mahito holds a different perspective on life and how to value it, not only due to being a curse, but again, he can see the soul of organisms. He states that you are me, Yuji Tadori. I kill without a second thought, just like how you can save people without a second thought. The instincts of a curse against the so-called dignity obtained by human reason. It's a battle to determine who will be left standing in 100 years. Mahito is truly a curse, and will always be a curse. He will always have the natural instinct to slaughter humans. His purpose for humanity is to serve as a mirror for humans, as impending death will always force one to enter self-reflection and see life from a different perspective. All of these features of Mahito culminate into how Yuji Tadori forces him into transcension. Throughout Yuji and Mahito's final battle, they both land black flashes and go back and forth. As Yuji eventually pushes Mahito to near death by landing a direct black flash to the head, he transfigures himself into a completely new transformation, stacking it with binding vows to only reinforce it. He claims that this is his true, unbridled soul, and that thanks to the Black Flash, he was finally able to understand this. As we know, hitting the Black Flash causes the user to enter a feeling of omnipotence, as if the world revolves around them. And Mahito being pushed to near death, while in a state of this omnipotence, was able to see the same mirror that he forces upon others to allow him to reflect upon the essence of his own soul and access a new form. Mahito in this state shares a glaring similarity with Sukuna, the mask that is on his face. The glaring difference between the face mask things between the two of them is that Mahito seems to have no eyes, whereas Sukuna's seems to cover only half of his face and give him access to another pair of eyes. I do think this is supposed to reference Mahito's false enlightenment, as he claims that life has no value throughout his entire run, and at the very end displays nothing but fear in the face of losing his own. I believe it's to call Mahito out as some sort of false prophet of the monstrous ideals that he preaches. Although Sukuna does not preach the correct ideals either, he can at the very least live up to them without caring whether he is right or wrong, whereas Mahito argues with Yuji all the time as to whose philosophies are correct and uses his own as reasons behind his actions, and again, couldn't live up to his own standard when his own time came. I do think given some time, Mahito could have become a very huge threat, which is why Gege had to put him down there and then. Speaking of Mahito, now let's speak of his shadow and their awakening, Yuji Itadori. After fighting Sukuna for about 15 to 20 chapters, Yuji lands his first Black Flash and awakens right in front of Sukuna. Now as we can see, Yuji's awakened state was able to draw out Shrine, Sukuna's curse technique. However, there's nothing that outright states what this awakened state is, unless we just conclude that it's a 120% boost in the state of omnipotence drawn out from the Black Flash. This mindset does allow the user to have a higher chance of hitting Black Flashes than normal, hence most characters who hit one mid-fight begin to chain them after hitting the first, which does fall in line with both Gojo and Yuji's battles with Sukuna recently. Gojo was also stated to have been in an awakened state against Sukuna after hitting his Black Flashes, which gave Gojo what he needed most in the battle against Sukuna at that time, which was a new reverse curse technique circuit. Something that stands out to me when it comes to Yuji's Black Flashes are that 95% of the time, they seem to be hit in situations that Yuji will absolutely need them or he's gonna die, and I believe he's aware of this. When things become dire enough for him, he'll even outright summon the attack it seems. I do want to correlate death in the Black Flash with Mahito's existence, as Mahito does serve as a mirror of death for humanity. He lands his Black Flashes at the peak of his joy and torment of Yuji Itadori, the man who serves as humanity's hope and the culmination of sacrifice. Being the one and only curse to land the Black Flash, meanwhile being spearheaded as synonymous with death in multiple ways, is just something I'm seeing. I don't think the Black Flash is some unknown magical puzzle, but rather, it has something to do with how characters may manipulate their curse energy when the concept of death is going through their mind. It probably makes them focus harder or just adrenaline. With all of the Black Flash awakenings aligned, the correlation of post-activation effects seem to be that the Black Flash accelerates the growth rate of the user after they grasp the true essence of curse energy when it comes to awakening a sorcerer. I don't believe awakenings triggered through the Black Flash bestow users with something from the beyond or unknown, but rather just tap into their latent ability and accelerate their growth and learning by probably 100-fold. In Yuji Itadori's hands, having the latent ability of Sukuna himself, it's super dangerous. Gojo's first awakening, however, is different. It was not just locking in 120% of anything like that. It was just a complete mindset shift and something that geared him toward becoming a sorcerer that stood far above any of his peers in his generation. Even Geto, who was a special grade himself, he spoke his own curse into existence by referring to himself alone as the honored one, and would constantly and consistently train after this day to skyrocket his strength to a point where he lost his own humanity. This isn't to say that Gojo became a bad person or anything of the sort, but not even one human being could understand him as a human. They couldn't comprehend or what he thinks as a human being, not even Geto. The name and existence of Satoru Gojo became synonymous with the strongest, and when it came to anything else besides being the strongest, he was perceived as someone who spouts nonsense and a fool. I do think isolation and understanding your isolation as a sorcerer in this series correlates with the character designs and movesets of the most lonely sorcerers. This brings us to the final two that aren't confirmed to be transcended, awakened, or whatever, but I mean, you can just tell they are. Sukuna and Tengen. The fact that these two praise their solitude and sacrifice of those around them as something that's given them wisdom, strength, and all the good in their life is as anti-human as it gets. They cannot live a life of solitude and find any satisfaction, ever. Hence is why these two do not look human. I don't even believe they truly are anymore. Sukuna playing this role as the strongest for as long as he possibly can, and being satisfied with isolation as the price to pay for such strength is almost sociopathic. He does truly not care for how the world sees him, and does not care for relationships with anybody or anything or whatever. He simply does what he wants as the strongest, and that somehow brings him happiness. And on the other hand, Tengen. who sat inside of the tomb of the star alone for hundreds of years, merging with multiple star plasma vessels to contain her own evolution until she couldn't. Their inhuman lifestyles are reflected in their monstrous features. They may be humanoid, but they are not human beings. Sukuna boasts his 4 eyes, 4 arms, 2-mouth getup, as it's stated to be the perfect body for a sorcerer. Obviously though, no human has all of that, nor does any normal human, depending on most of society's standards, eat other humans. Despite these details, we still don't know what made Sukuna the way he is. As for Tengen, she explains that she looks the way she does due to being 500-ish years old. She's immortal, but she's not immune to aging effects. That's cool and all, but again, no human is living 500 years, nor would they look like that. I believe these design choices are to tell you that yes, these human-like creatures are great sorcerers in their own rights, but they're not entities you should aspire toward or want to be like. They are uncanny, and in my opinion, grotesque depictions of humanity for a reason. Coming back to Gojo not really being human either, since I mentioned that earlier, Gojo's aware of his isolation being a bad thing, and he desperately chastises it, and even fights against it with his cultivation of the next generation of sorcerers that we know today. This is why I think he's designed to have his trademark infinity barrier that metaphorically separates him from everybody. But as he isn't hundreds of years old, values social relationships and connections, and doesn't overstay his welcome in this world unlike the previous 2 mentioned, he still retains many of his human features, and not grow into these monstrosities that they have. He's still human, but he cannot reach anybody or anything without going out of his way to do it. This is just me guessing why Gege designed these characters the way he did, and how it relates to their transcendence though, as Sukuna and Tengen seem to be the 2 in the lead when it comes to this race. As for what transcendence as a whole in this series means and what it's supposed to be, from a storytelling sense, it seems to be a reflection of the self-actualization of the respective characters in these stories. Something to help them accelerate their growth as not only sorcerers, but people, by forcing them to do a bit of reflection and then understanding better who they are as characters. Whether it be through introspection, Black Flash, whatever, that is always the outcome in this story, and it translates into their capacity for battle. If I had to theorize what exactly it is in story, I would guess that it's linked to the mind and soul, and how it can infinitely grow. Tengen seems to have her awakened beyond human state due to age, and she just outright says this. The Black Flash comes into play in all of this only due to placing its users in the state of omnipotence. I think this is why it's said that the difference between those who have hit the Black Flash and those who haven't is heaven and earth. Their minds and how they see the world around them are completely different. It's not a power level thing. I think Tengen has not hit any Black Flashes, but again, she's 500 years old. She can more than make up for all the growth that these other sorcerers have through her time just sitting still and learning about the world and witnessing it, right? I'm certain that we're eventually going to get the full true explanation and process for an awakening, transcension, or if you separate the 2, whatever. And all we can do from here is just wait. You know, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in the bag before we learn about it because it's an interesting topic to me. With that said, I want to thank those who took the time out of their day to watch, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out. And thank you Surfshark for sponsoring this video. Make sure you guys hit that link in the description down below to get an extra 3 months free from your trial. With that said, peace out.